Yeah, I agree. I think mini camp's the first time where you start to get a little bit excited. You start to get a feel for these guys, who's going to shine, who are the sleepers. That's the biggest one is who are the sleepers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think they have a couple of them. When you look at this roster during OTAs, it was incomplete because there was no quarterback. And that was where all the attention was like, okay, yeah, Roman looks big. Calvin Austin looks fast. There's no DK Metcalf. Mason, awesome. Will Howard, cool. But everybody knew that all eyes were on, okay, what's going to happen when Aaron Rodgers does show up? And he showed up, and then immediately you start paying attention to other things. You got to pay attention to the wide receivers. You got to pay attention to the defensive line and the linebackers and the corners and the tight ends that we are most definitely going to talk about. And you started to get a feel of the Steelers have some pieces. And it was good to be able, and shout out to Aaron Rodgers for making that possible, to take your eyes off of the quarterback situation, put them on the rest of this team, and see who else came out on top. And I think there were some good names. I'll ask you this: your first day there yesterday, what was your biggest takeaway? We'll obviously dive into names here and there throughout this podcast, but your biggest takeaway being there yesterday of what you saw.
Two things were the biggest takeaways for me, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but the biggest takeaway was the standout clear winner from minicamp for me, which
Yeah.
was Darnell Washington, and we can get into more of that in a minute. But also the team morale, the team spirit that seemed to already be instilled within the locker room, and these sort of universal messaging that they all were talking about. I heard like a common thread of coming together, and this is ideally the time that this is going to happen, right? With mini camp exiting, with training camp just on the horizon. Of
Yeah.
course, everyone's talking about like team bonding, about team building, and everyone has like a very optimistic, whether it's realistic or not, but an optimistic view of what they can do in the upcoming season. So the Steelers are certainly in that moment right now, but across the board, rookies, veterans, everybody who was in the locker room and coming off the field, and everybody I got the chance to kind of chat with yesterday, it was clear that they're all kind of united and coming together with the same goal, and that's to win a Super Bowl. And so it wasn't a pressure, it wasn't a sort of sense of we have to get this done or else it's a failure, but it was just a kind of calm, cool, but collected sort of feeling that everyone already has. And for that to be there already, it was you could feel it. It was encouraging. And that was, probably the biggest takeaway from the final day of minicamp for me.
Yeah, I was loving that. And Darnell, to me, um was the biggest winner as well. Like you looked at Darnell Washington and who he was, and I know I'm lagging. I'm gonna fix it here in a second, but you look at Darnell Washington and who he was, and it kind of felt like coming into this year, my expectations, at least for Darnell Washington, were okay. He's going to be a big guy. Chances are he gets passed up on the depth chart by somebody. The Steelers are bringing Donald Parham in. Seems like that's the guy that the Steelers want Darnell to be, but they're okay with him, kind of taking a step backwards, just being essentially another tackle. And then he showed up and he looks, I don't want to say skinnier. It's like almost impossible for Darnell Washington to look skinnier. That's just not a real possibility. The man's massive. But he looks more nimble. He looks more conditioned for sure. And his hands, his route running looks way better. And to be honest with you, like this is the first time, and we've hyped up Darnell Washington every single year, but this is the first time that I watched Darnell and just said, like, there's actual tangible evidence that he is better this season than he's been in years past. That's huge because in years past, last year, you're just hyping it up. You're going, all right, like, Darnell, year two, better offensive coordinator, better system. He should work well. Year one, you're just hoping for the best. You're essentially taking a guy who played tackle at Georgia and saying, yeah, I think he could, that one hurdle over the guy that everybody replays every single time, that guy's going to turn into a stud. But you're looking at you look at a guy like Darnell right now, and it just feels like He's coming up with contested catches. He's staying on the field throughout all of practice. He's being involved in the passing game. He's the first or second read sometimes in routes. All these things didn't happen. And I love it, to be honest. I think the Steelers, all the Jonnu Smith talk, all the Kyle Pitts talk, yeah, that makes sense. If the Steelers are going to go get another tight end, I get it. You're adding another playmaker to a list of playmakers, but you don't need it because Darnell Washington's here. And I'd rather give Darnell that opportunity than anybody else, because Darnell's here. Darnell's part of this. Darnell fits what Arthur Smith is looking for in the run game. And if you can figure it out in the pass game and just be an extension of the tight end room that has hands, I think it works so well, to be honest with you. Darnell to me is the clear-cut winner, and what he can be. I'll ask you, do you get the sense, I mean, you saw yesterday, you got to dive into that offense and see how much he was on the field. Do you get the sense he's going to be utilized more? And as you answer that, I'm going to switch Wi-Fi so that we're good to go. So I might dip for a second, but I'll be back, I promise.
You got it. Yeah, so I think that it was pretty clear to me seeing this offense for the first time and seeing them come together, even in these practice sessions, that he is the tight end two in every sense of the word, in every single way. I think what Noah already mentioned here was bang on. I think there might have been a team directive for everyone to just get like as thin as possible, not in a bad way, but we talked about it with Broderick Jones a couple of days ago and Darnell Washington too. The most that this massive hulking man can become, slender or a thinner version. I think he is just at his probably like physically thinnest that he could be, while also looking imposing as ever. So there is clearly a progression that has happened with him from year 1 to year 3, and he looks like an imposing tight end. So I think all the opportunities are there for him right now. And there was one thing that I noticed, and I was across on the other practice field whenever I saw it, but in between sort of like drills, Darnell was working with, I assume, the tight end coach, and they were running through like this sort of drill of the ball coming in at like all kinds of different angles and different catch points. And it's clear that his blocking is already tackle like you, and he's gotten better at that. And he's maintained that. So he's already the best blocking tight end that the Steelers have. But it's clear that there is an emphasis from the coaching staff and from him just as a player on improving the playmaking skills, being a more viable target. And I think that just lines up perfectly with what the Steelers want to do on offense, what Arthur Smith wants to do, what Aaron Rodgers wants to do on offense. And yeah, I mean, it's a hype train that I'm fully on right now, but I think the opportunity more than anything is there for him to become a legitimate tight end too.